Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here on day one of living in the flow and transcending struggle. I am Jennifer Hough, and just welcome. If you have never done a workshop with us before, yay! If you have, yay! Just know that you are welcome, and this is going to be quite a journey. Each day is going to be about between 20 and 30 minutes. And today is especially juicy because it sets the fundamentals for the other 2 days. It sets the groundwork. It sets the what we got to do. It sets the how we're getting on. I just want to say hi to all the people that are joining us live, Annette and Allison and Carrie and all of you that are here, including my sweetie pie, Adam Lamb. And so what we're going to do, first of all, is we are going to look at the 3 paradigm shifts in your thinking that need to change in order that you become magnetic to receiving and you practice, and not even practice, you create a new default way of being for yourself so that you don't have to spend your time excavating how come you're not in flow. We want you to just be able to get on with it. That's one of the paradigm shifts, is that you can get on with being fluid without needing to excavate everything that you perceive is in the way. What if by getting on with being fluid, you actually started to transmute all the reasons that things aren't fluid automatically by kind of getting into a flow with consciousness, the universe, and really the way that life is meant to flow. And as you do that, all of the things that have stopped you, that you've complained about, or maybe have you ever felt really tired of excavating and analyzing yourself and trying to fix yourself like you're broken? Because if you have, then you're definitely in the right place. All right. Because that's not what we're going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to activate what it looks like to flow. And in doing that, it becomes so compelling that the excavation of who you're not and the struggle becomes a lot less interesting. And then it's a lot easier to transmute the old stuff. So that is the philosophy of everything that we do. It's around not being hard and not spending the rest of your life trying to correct yourself because you're broken, because you're not. So that actually is point number 1. However, I do want to tell you that at the end of today, we are going to, at the end of the next 20-25 minutes, what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm also going to give you some homework. It's very pragmatic homework. You can apply it, because what we want to do is we want to exercise the muscle of living a different way. We've been living a long time, some of us, weeks, others of us, maybe months, but most of us probably years in trying to figure things out and trying to make things go your way and all that kind of stuff. And what we want to do here is give your brain some training and give yourself a new biochemistry so that your body and your biology starts to line up with a new way of being. Does that sound cool? So at the end, I'm going to give you that homework, and I'm also going to give you a little something that's like kind of awesome. So, all right, let us begin. So today is titled The 3 Shifts in Thinking That Are Essential to Living in Flow. And so those 3 shifts in thinking, I wanna share a little bit about me in case maybe you'll relate to this. And I'm only sharing this so you guys might see yourself. This story I'm about to tell is about. Let's see if you can kind of feel what I'm saying. I remember way back when there were 3 things going on with me. First of all, I was really worried about the judgments of others I was concerned about what other people thought as I flew forward. And I lived on my sailboat. I had quit my corporate job. Even my parents were like, "What are you doing?" And I had started a consulting company, which, again, what am I doing? And I didn't own any property, and I was young, but my solution to worrying about the judgments of others was to not tell a lot of people what I was up to. So I hid myself. I wasn't seen. I felt alone most of the time, very independent. The second thing is that I also, and so I kind of had this thing where I kept myself looking like I had it handled. Now that got really exhausting over time. And because it got really exhausting, what I did was I withdrew. I withdrew for a long time. I didn't show myself to people because then I didn't have to pretend I was anything different than I was. So that was in my 30s. I was pretending I was something different than I was after a long period of basically hiding myself, or just not letting anyone know that I was feeling disempowered or depressed or everything wasn't perfect in my life. The last little aspect of me not living in flow was that I needed to do it all myself. I needed to get in flow myself, because a long time before, and I find that so many people can relate. I've had so many clients who said this to me when I share this story. When I was younger and growing up in my house, I remember my dad was quite a perfectionist. I love my dad very much, but he had an engineer as a dad, and his father was probably a little bit abusive. And so my dad felt very compelled to get everything right, or he got hurt. And so he took that fear and he superimposed it on me. And I call it perfectionism. I don't know what you guys will call it, but again, just saying hi to everybody who's joining us. So that volatility led me to think. I remember being in the basement one day, and I was helping him at 4 or 5 years old, putting up that ugly wood paneling a lot of people used to have, including us. And he used a jigsaw to make this piece that went around the mantle of the fireplace and everything. And I was helping him. I took a hammer and I whacked off the end of the paneling. And my father yelled. He screamed. And I was 5. And so that was the beginning of the training that I had to get everything right in order to be loved or be acceptable. So I realized that being acceptable, I made a decision, being acceptable is important, 1, and that if I wasn't acceptable, then I wasn't being loved, 2. Now, here's the thing. How you prove you're worthy of love is you have to do it yourself. So think of a time in your life where you decided that you had to prove you're worthy, or you had to prove you're lovable, or you felt like there was a switch in the way you thought. It wasn't about being a 5-year-old, playing and singing and dancing and all those kinds of things and figuring out how to create upon creation. It was about society at large projecting a should on you, whether it be your parents or your teachers or whatever it was, in order to conform. And the important thing, the decision was around, how do I be acceptable? How do I be lovable? How do I fit in? And when you try to do those things and you spend the rest of your life doing those, they instantaneously take you on a different path than your purpose. Because fitting in, if the universe thought you were a good idea, if all of consciousness thought you were a good idea, and it must have, because you're here, because you're alive, because you were born. So if you were born, all of consciousness thought you were a good idea. So the very first paradigm shift that I want to share with you is actually around the good idea that you are. If sometimes you find yourself responding to decisions that you made earlier in life, and you autopilot to trying to prove yourself, or doing it independently, doing life independently, or trying to get it right like I did, if you default to those ways of being, it is because you've forgotten, because at 3 years old you remembered, but it is because you have forgotten that the entire universe, infinite wisdom, thought you were a good idea. That's all that matters. We're going to do an exercise in a second to get your brain to basically relinquish its grip on the belief systems that you made up that basically put you in the jail of responding to life from a place of perfectionism, from a place of trying to get it right, from a place of trying to prove yourself, from a place of trying to, get it somehow handled or look like you have, avoid judgment of others, or if you're really going for it, get the love of others, be liked by lots of others. So if you want to transcend that, we are going to do an activation in a second, so stick around. But point number 1 is about the idea that sometime around 2 or 3 years old, sometimes earlier, sometimes later, you got the idea that you are no longer a child of the entire universe. You are no longer a divine child of God. You are now, the whole paradigm shifts to you need to belong. You need to fit in. You need to be acceptable. You need to be lovable. You need to get it right, or people won't like you and it feels bad. So we're going to transcend that, number 1. Sound like a good idea? You guys up for that? Okay. So the second piece of this puzzle, the second paradigm shift that we're going to make, is a paradigm shift. And remember, this is all in order to be in flow. This is all in order to live in flow. So for the second paradigm shift, it's really important, okay? It's really important to know what flow is. Now you guys type in for me. What do you think flow is? How do you think flow happens? What would flow look like for you? Describe it. Like, does it equal everything's always happy? Does it equal you have lots of friends in your life? Like, what do you project flow looks like to you? Just write it in. Type it in. I want to see. So, and I'll read some of them for the people who will watch this on YouTube. Sylvia's saying it looks like grace and ease. Someone else is saying it looks like gratitude. So someone else is saying not questioning your decisions. Thanks, Jackie. Another Jackie is saying that it looks like, or Jocelyn, I should say, synchronicity. Michelle's saying accept things. Things don't feel so difficult. No resistance. Lots of feedback on this one. Thanks, Kay. Thanks, Megan. Dondra says smooth. So let me assist you with what flow actually means, because I want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because this is the first day of our 3. Okay? So this is what fluidity actually means. Fluidity means it presumes that, and let's get on the same page. And for those of you who may have been in a program that I've done before, for those of you who have never done a program you've done, you'll be able to hear this. And for those that have, I want you to feel it even more deeply. So understand, guys, that we're all made up of molecules. Yes? Molecules are made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of protons, neutrons, and electrons. Protons, neutrons, and electrons have space between them, and they're also made up of something. They have to be because they exist. We can even look at them in a microscope. The problem is science can only go so far as to what it looks like. But imagine that between all of the electrons and between the nucleus and the electrons and each valence shell of the electrons is space. And within each electron is also something that comprises the electron. So at the most fundamental basis of our existence, we are actually made of something that can't be seen. And if you study physics, you'll understand that depending on which metaphysician you talk to, between 83 and 99.139% of what we think exists, which is quite arrogant, is actually the space between the atoms, the space between the electrons, the space inside of those things, which means that most of what human beings are comprised of is pure potential. Think of it like something that has not yet landed in 3 dimensions. So imagine that most of what we are made of is the space between the atoms, the space between the electrons. We're made of pure potential that has not yet landed in 3D. So you know when people who teach spiritual classes say things like, well, you're a creator in human form, or you are consciousness as human being, or, you know, you were here to bring heaven to earth, or they say things like this, you know, you are fingers of the hand of God. That's all fine and good, but the practical meaning of that is this, that you have landed in 3D. Here we are having a conversation. So you have landed in 3D. What that means is something has decided that you're a good idea to be a focal point, to be able to think and feel and imagine and create in 3D. So imagine that the flow of consciousness is forward and out. We're defining flow. The flow of consciousness is forward and out. So all those particles, the 97%, the 99.9% of all that is flowing forward and out at the speed of creation, and somewhere in there, you were created. The universe thought you were a good idea. Consciousness dreamed you into being. That's pretty cool, don't you think? And so consciousness thought you were a good idea. So I'm going to ask you some questions in this definition of flow, and then we're going to do some activations. First of all, if the entire universe conspired to get you here, are you the universe's idea first, or are you your parents' idea first? Just answer the question, the universe's or your parents? Is there any struggle for the universe? Just answer the question. Is there struggle for consciousness? Consciousness that just is. If creation just creates upon itself, there's no struggle. There's just going this way and that way and discovering, and there's an adventure unfolding, right? So the next question is, if you just consider, really consider and allow yourselves to feel the answers to these. In order to come into fruition in 3D, you had to have been the universe's infinite wisdom's idea. Is infinite wisdom in and of everything? Is it part of, in and of everything? Are those metaphysical particles part of everything? Well, they have to be, fundamentally, don't they? Which means that they're also part of you. That which the universe is made of is also what comprises you. So now, we are those particles. Consciousness took all of the contrast of previous lifetimes, all of the bridges that needed to be built, all of the hardships, all of the struggles, all of the things that have happened, and all of the prayers that resulted, and all of the yearnings from you in past lives, and consciousness listened to it all and said, in times of great change, when bridges need to be built, when we want to make the world a different place, I think you're a good idea. That's the space from which you were born. And you're made of the particles of consciousness. But we forget, don't we? So what is flow? Very simple definition. Flow is living in alignment with the stream of the way the universe works. It's transcending the need to prove anything in 3D. And as you said, Bonnie, as above, so below. Instead of looking for heaven in other human beings that are trying to prove themselves like I did when I was little, it's more like remembering our ultimate nature such that we can commune with life in the same way that which created us does, such that we are in consistent response to what's being brought to us, which brings me to the next point. That everything, so this was a huge paradigm for me. Everything happens for me. So let's just summarize the first point, the first paradigm shift. The first paradigm shift is that you are the idea of consciousness first. You were creation. You were infinite wisdom that considers every rainbow, every species, every star system, every satellite, every particle of sand, every ceiling fan, every Facebook Live. It considers everything that has ever happened and decides in an instant, instead of a supernova, that you are a good idea in these times of great change. Do you operate with yourself like you're that way? Or do you operate with yourself like you're the child of a father that had an abusive experience and became perfectionistic and then superimposed that on you, whatever your version of that story is? So, paradigm shift number one comes from asking the question, are you a divine child of God? First, a divine child of that flow. Are you willing to own yourself as infinite wisdom's good idea? Are you willing to own that? I didn't say can you right now. I said, are you willing to consider the possibility that that is who you are? That creation thought you were a good idea. And then start to ask yourself, what are the implications of that? Paradigm shift number one. Paradigm shift number two. Everything happens for you. Well, now that we've had this discussion, how could it not? Consciousness, particles of creation, whether you talk about this spiritually and religiously, or whether you talk about this scientifically and metaphysically, creation is still creation. It's constantly moving forward and out and wanting to create upon itself in fluidity. If you imagine, that's the scientific explanation for heaven. Heaven is that flow. It's heavenly flow. You don't have to wait till you die to release resistance, although when you die, you definitely will release resistance and you will be in that heavenly flow. But gosh, why wait, right? Why should we wait? And that's why we're doing this series, to show you how it works. How does it work? How does a three-dimensional human being that is not, particles of creation, but is operating from 3D, not from multi-D, how do you become, what are the conduits to be able to live in that degree of flow? How do you speak the language of being a family member of creation versus a family member of a bunch of 3D people superimposing and projecting things on you about the way that you should be? How do you break free? Instead of, how do we keep excavating what we perceive is wrong, which brings me to point number 3. I'm not broken, and I don't need fixing. Okay? So I'm not broken and I don't need fixing is the third paradigm. I'm going to okay. So what we're doing right now is a little technique that we use in Get Out of Your Own Way. I'm only going to explain it today, but I might explain it a little bit the other days, but I'm going to explain it today because it's a paradigm that's very important. Okay. To live in flow. This is not going to be like any other course you've ever taken, because one of the things that happens is out there in the world, people talk about affirmation and thinking new thoughts and believing new things. That is all very hard work. We'll talk about that next time. We're going to talk in class 2 all about changing beliefs and doing all this hard work to try to change yourself. What we're doing here is not about that. So, what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is, what if your left and your right brains always want peace? You ever heard of cognitive dissonance? Cognitive dissonance means that what you're living and what you believe are two different things. So somehow you either have to change your beliefs to match what you're living, or you have to change what you're living to match your beliefs. It would be like, it's like beets. This is me when I was little. Beets are really good for you, Jennifer. You have to eat them all. But when I was little, when I ate beets, I threw up. So either I have to change my belief, either that beets are good, but I was throwing up. So instead, what I had to do is I had to change my beliefs about beets. No, they're not good. Beets are horrible. But that's not true either. It's just my body couldn't handle beets at the time, really. But you see how we change our beliefs. We start developing beliefs about people, places, and things. Now, here's the thing. You'll see I developed a more freeing belief called there's a third entity belief. Like consciousness has a belief that frees you up. And when you tap into, and I don't know if you've ever read Jill Bolte Taylor or watched the TED Talk with Jill Bolte Taylor, we'll post it for you later, or someone can post it now if you want to go and look at it in TED Talks. But she talks about this beautiful brain of ours and how she had a stroke in her left side, and her right brain, all of our right brains are connected to the infinite. There's no limits for the right brain. But the left brain is very logical and rational, and it needs evidence, it needs history. It's very meticulous, it needs to work hard. So, the reason I share this with you is because when your cosmic brain, when the brain is connected to all possibility, to that 99.139% of all of consciousness, when that brain taps into what's possible, and then feeds information over to the left brain and can show the left brain that something else is true, we get what I call a third entity experience. I call that a brain bridge. It's like bridging cosmic wisdom to your left brain, so your left brain doesn't have to be governed by your fears and your ego. Wouldn't that be freeing? If you could just tap into consciousness and know all the deeper truths, and your left brain would instantly go, oh, that feels way better than what I was thinking, that the world is out to get me, that I'm not worthy, that I have to prove that I'm lovable, blah, 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 blah. My God, if I could actually understand infinite wisdom's truths and just show my left brain that those are more true, my left brain would become the tool of infinite wisdom. My left brain would be used by my heart. It would be used by possibility. I would be free. See what I'm talking about around fluidity? Get what I'm talking about? You're starting to feel it, right? So did I just do that weird operator thing? Hello? So anyways, point being, the work we're going to do together over the next 3 days is going to be around building those brain bridges. And one of those brain bridges just happened because I'm going to show you retroactively that we just did it. You're either a child of your parents or a child of society or a child of whatever, and you're trying really hard to prove something that happened to you is not true, or prove something about yourself that's not true, and you spend the rest of your life proving that decision instead of understanding yourself as a divine child of an infinite universe, which is a much deeper truth, that thought you were a good idea in times of great change and considered everything before you got here. That's a brain bridge. Because what I said is equally true as your parents birthed you. But just because fallible human beings have expectations of you, whether they're related or not, has nothing to do with your life as a divine child of an infinite universe. Also, creation thought you were a good idea because you have skill sets, natural propensities, and things that you can do in the world that would make the world a better place in these times of great change. So that's why you feel that sense of urgency calling you inside. Now, you can believe me or not, but this paradigm shift is the first one that changed my life. The second one, that's called a brain bridge. We do probably 100 of them in the program we do called Get Out of Your Own Way. The second one is everything happens for you. Well, it has to happen for you, because you're particles of consciousness, and consciousness wants to flow forward and out using the fabric of love to build its cloth, to build its mosaic. So everything that happens to you is either an act of love or a call to love, an inspiration forward or a redirect. But either way, it's happening for you. I'm going to say it again. Everything that happens in your life is either a redirect or it's inspiring you forward. It's an act of love calling you to more, or a call for love where it's missing. Every person that comes into your life, as Course in Miracles said, their conversation with you is either an act of love or a call for love. So, everything that happens for you, whether it's redirecting you, which usually feels pretty contrasty and difficult. See, flow doesn't equal everything's always happy. Flow doesn't equal everything always works out the way you want it to work out. Your ego is usually trying to govern those things. When you make up something in your head that you say you want, and you put it forth as an intention in the law of attraction world, more than half the time people are making up those intentions because they would feel comfortable in the having of the thing that they're intending. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, the entire universe is conspiring for you, and by you making up stuff based on your history and what you've seen on TV and what you've seen in magazines and vision boards, so pales in comparison to the dance with life that awaits you, that your intention becomes minor. We'll talk about making miracles normal in the third class. That definitely is flow, because that degree of flow is so far beyond intention, it's not even funny. So everything happens for you. Important. Does everyone get that? So the next thing, the last one was, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of homework. The last one was, I'm not broken and I don't need fixing. So, I'm not broken and I don't need fixing. And yes, that is creating upon creation. When you're redirected, you're totally creating upon creation, Michelle. So, I'm not broken and I don't need fixing. What does that mean? Well, okay, this is a big one. This is a big one. If you can get this, Oh my God, it will change your life. Okay, so again, we're building a brain bridge. It's one of the 5 advanced metaphysical techniques that we use in Get Out of Your Own Way. It's a program that we do. Okay, but I want to give you this example. It's so powerful. Ugh, it's juicy. Okay, see, when I realized this, because I was going to all these programs, and in fact, I remember going to this one program, and it was because my friend was like, Jennifer, you got to come. This personal development program, this is like 25 years ago, changes your life. It's like so amazing. Yes, I did it when I was 6. It changes so amazing. And all I heard it like was, I'm broken and I need fixing, because of my history with my dad where everything needed to be perfect. So what I heard is, oh, I'm imperfect. I need to take this course to make me perfect. And of course, then I realized, okay, I'm going to start reading books. The first book I ever read, 2 of them. One was The Road Less Traveled, and the other one was Illusions by Richard Bach. So amazing if you haven't read it. So I was reading those books, and I'm like, okay, I got to do this all myself. Because remember, if you're going to prove your worth in a 3-dimensional world, you have to do it all by yourself and independently, because if anyone else contributes to it, God forbid, you should have help along the way, because then you didn't really prove it because you got help. So it doesn't really count. You understand? Independence is so overrated. I get help to this day when I made this paradigm shift. So I went to that program, and I realized that I just saw the world a different way, and I realized there was so much that I absolutely did not know, that I didn't even understand it. So I didn't even know the right question to ask. So how did I shift it? What was the brain bridge? And then the homework, okay? So how I shifted it is, first I understood that I'm a divine child of an infinite universe. The second thing is, I realize that everything happens for me. Of course it happens for me. I'm a part of the universe. The universe is constantly redirecting us back to flow because we're particles of it. It wants to expand and create upon itself, and what it expands and creates is harmony and love. That's why we're always feeling called forward. So I realize that. And then the third one is, wait a second. The good idea that the universe thought I was before I got here was based on, now, you don't have to believe me when I say this, but just consider it. You've had many lifetimes before this one. You've been here many times before. And you've developed natural propensities that all get recorded in your Akashic record, and many other records, by the way. That's just one small little part of it. But you have personality traits and skill sets and natural propensities and musicality or humor or ability to negotiate things or mediate or be kind or change things through love. You came in with those things, and the universe looked at everything you'd ever lived and decided you were a good idea in times of great change, and that you expanding upon those ways of being in the world, in this country, as a woman or as a man, tall or short, whatever body you have, wherever you live. And I know there are people from all over the world. I know there are Australians and people from Germany and people from England. I know there's people from all over the world right now. Canada, United States. No matter where you're from, you were planted there on purpose. You're in that body on purpose. So, everything, this is the clincher, everything, every family you were born into, each of you, if you were born into a family that it was really difficult and you've healed, you've realized deeper truths about your situation, deeper truths about humanity, had ahas about your state. And if you haven't, that's okay. There'll be lots of opportunity in the next couple of days and beyond. You lived those things in order to build the metaphysical bridges to more deeply understand yourself, so you would become a beacon of understanding. You would become the embodiment of that understanding. You would contain the metaphysical codes for anyone in the world to build a bridge home if they had forgotten themselves, because you have embodied the ability to be able to do that, and you found your freedom. So we become sentinels, guardians, activators of thousands of other people. With every new understanding we have, we heal our ancestry. We give the gift of healing to our parents. We give the gift of, that's a huge gift of love, by the way. As you heal metaphysically, the whole shifts. So how could everything that you've been through be part of a brokenness? When you came here to build bridges of love and harmony on the planet, of course you cannot be broken. You don't need fixing. It's simply asking the question, is love winning right now? So here is your homework. First, before we do the homework, I am going to let you know that 11/11 for the next 2 days, again, we are going to be having a live conversation that's going to build brain bridges. We're going to do some activations, and we're going to talk about the pragmatics of living in flow, of actually making miracles a normal. Okay, what does it take? So, I want you to know that tomorrow is the 4 biggest causes of struggle and how we leave them behind, how you leave them behind you, and the most important skill I can give you. There's one important skill, that's tomorrow. On January 30th, the 3rd day, it's becoming a relentless champion of your flow without being distracted by the big 5. So we get distractions. Why do we get distractions? How do they happen? And so that's day 3. Okay, so also I want you to know that we will put all of these will be up on our YouTube channel, and we will put the subscribe link to our YouTube channel in the description of today up above the video, so that you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and you can go back and listen to these as often as you want, because you know how sometimes in Facebook they kind of scroll down. So I want to make sure you can access all 3 classes over and over again. So so that's that. All right. So the homework. I want you to put sticky notes all over your house. So let's say 21 sticky notes just for fun, because it's a 3-year. I want everything to be in 3s. So the sticky notes say, am I letting love win right now? If love is not winning in a situation, either you trying to work too hard or you struggling, how you know love is not winning is because you're not in your heart, therefore things are not flowing. If love is not winning, here is the very simple skill. I hope you have to do this like 7 times today, because if it's 7 times, that's how big of a change it'll be in your life. Every time something's not flowing, you either get to go and play with your puppy dog or kitty cat. You either get to go outside in nature and go walk in the trees. 5 minutes. You get to phone someone who loves and adores you. Something that gets you back in your heart. 5 minutes. That's it. Okay? So you're going to put sticky notes all over your house that say, is love winning right now? Just so you can have the trigger, because until you get that in your brain, it's good to see the triggers everywhere. You have it in your car. Maybe you put it as your, if you want to post a photo of you putting it as your screensaver as you're on your phone, that would be awesome. Am I letting love win right now? Okay. So, what that means is love the pervasive feeling right now? Is love the main feeling, or is it judgment? Is it separation? Is it feeling alone? Is it frustration? If love isn't winning, if love isn't the thing that's first and foremost, then you have to do a reset. period. Because that's what puts you in alignment with flow. Such a simple thing, a little sticky note. Can't wait to hear what happens tomorrow, but you have to do the homework. Don't make me come over there. You know what I'm saying? Don't make me go in there. So I hope everybody has gotten some things. I would love to hear from you. If you type in, what you got from today, make sure you can absolutely come back on the playground and watch. For those of you who are new to the playground, which there is just a boatload of you, for those of you that are new to the TWA playground, the Wide Awakening playground, I want you to know that every Monday we post a question of the week. You'll see it below. Make sure you answer it. If you have friends that want to come to the Wide Awakening playground and want to partake in this beautiful process together, it's facebook.com. I'll post it, by the way, up above. Facebook.com/groups/TWA playground. Okay, they can just ask to join and Nadine will approve them. Make sure they answer the questions that we ask you, because it really helps us understand where you're coming from and who you are. And so the first thing we do is on Monday, question of the week. I'm on the page and so is our team all week long. On Fridays, we post either a movie of the week or a book of the week and we talk about it. Everyone is constantly offering things that are uplifting, sharing vulnerably, feeling like they have a soft place to land on this page, which just makes my heart sing. That for me is heaven on earth, is being able to share that way. So for those that are new to the TWA playground, welcome, welcome, welcome. So happy to have you here. Come often, come and play, comment on people's posts, be generous, be loving. We do ask, however, that you do not post anything about your business or you don't talk about the blog post you just did. It really is personal and we want to keep it vulnerable and we want to keep it like equals dancing, side by side. No gurus here, okay? Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to see you in day 2. Woohoo! And have fun with your homework. Put on the playground some of the sticky notes. Maybe you can think of some even better sticky notes for you to put up all over your house and in your car and on your computer. And we'd love to see that too. Okay, and you're so welcome. Thank you everyone for all your thank yous. I love you. Okay, bye everyone. So excited. It's on! Woohoo!